Hello, this video is on computer skills for R-Instat. This video is mainly for beginners. We use a simple dataset to practice navigating R-Instat and getting comfortable with the computer skills needed to use it. We suppose there are 10 numbers to analyze. On the front screen, choose the top option in the Start menu. New data frame. Click on it with the left button of the mouse. As shown, a new screen will pop up called New Data Frame. This is called a dialog. At the top, it says 2 columns and 10 rows. At the bottom left-hand side, you see an OK button. Click on it, again using the left mouse button. This opens a small sheet which is called a data frame. Click in the first row of the second column and type in the first number, then press the Enter key to go to the next row. Then type the next number and press Enter again. You can also move between cells by using the up and down arrows on your keyboard or by clicking on the new cell with your mouse. If you notice a mistake in a cell, simply double-click on it with your left mouse button and use your keyboard's backspace button to delete and change the value. Once we have entered the data, which is just the one variable or column that we entered, let's check the data by summarizing both of the columns. Go to Prepare, check Data, One Variable Summarize. Looking at this dialog, you notice that the OK button in the bottom left corner is not enabled. That's because we have not yet said which variables we would like to summarize. So, we need to fill in the dialog before clicking OK. In the dialog, there is an Add button in the middle with a down arrow. Click on the down arrow on the Add button and then choose the option to add all the variables as we want to add both x1 and x2. Notice that both variables have moved into the variables to summarize box. Now, the OK button is enabled. Click on it. The results show up in blue in the output window, but they are a little disappointing. We have a summary of the numbers 1 to 10 from the first column, but no analysis of the data from the second column. Instead, it says the variables is of type or class character. We can see this because there is a C just after the name of the second column. This is easy to change. Right-click anywhere in that second column, we get a pop-up menu. Choose Convert to Numeric, as all the values in this column are numbers. We see the C is no longer there, so the column is no longer a character column. Return to Prepare, check Data, One Variable, Summarize. The dialog has remembered the choices from before. It is just as we left it. So this time, we just click OK. Great! It worked. Now we do get a summary of the data. Did you find it odd that this dialog is called One Variable Summarize, but it was used to summarize 2 variables? However, the variables were summarized one at a time. So that's why it is called One Variable Summarize. What happens if you make a mistake? Here, we show that R-Instat is useful to help spot mistakes and that correcting them is easy. We repeat the data entry task but make a deliberate mistake to see what happens. Use File, New Data Frame to return to the first dialog we used. Click OK. This adds a new data frame called Data 1. So, the data book now has two sheets. We enter the data as we did before, but instead of 10 for 10, enter 1 followed by the letter O, which looks similar. Now, let's see if we can convert this to a numeric column as we did before. Right-click in the new second column with the error and click on Convert to Numeric. This time, it gives a message as shown. Of course, we know why one value is non-numeric. Choose Normal Convert to see what happens. It has done the conversion but made the non-numeric value into a missing value displayed as NA, which stands for Not Available. We could correct the value, but first, let's see whether we can analyze the data when some values are missing. Go back to the Prepare, Check Data, One Variable Summarize dialog. It looks alright, but the data frame towards the top left has gone red. The red is a warning for you to check if this is the correct data frame. This lets you know that you're working on the first sheet called Data and not the Data 1 sheet. This is not what we want. So, click on the down arrow in the data frame box and click on Data 1. Now, the variables to summarize receiver interquiz has cleared, and OK at the bottom is disabled because we have not filled in the dialog for the new Data 1 data frame. But that's all right. We now know how to fill it. As before, press the down arrow next to the Add button and choose Add All. Then click OK. The summary is a success, though the values are slightly different than before because there was a missing value in place of the 10. Now we know that a missing value is shown by NA, and we can analyze data when some values are missing. It is good practice to save your data so that you can open it again and continue your work. To do this, simply go to File, Save As, Save Data As. Click on Browse. In the Explorer dialog, go to the folder where you want to save your data. Type in a file name of your choice and click Save. Back in R-Instat, confirm your Save option by clicking OK. Let's try entering the data again. The penultimate time. Use File, New Data Frame again. In the New Data Frame dialog, click on the down arrow of the type for X2 and make that column numeric. You can also name the variables here. Click on the name X2 and choose your own name. I have given the name max_temp. The underscore is usually just above the minus sign on the keyboard. We call the data frame test instead of data2. Now, try to enter the data again. As before, make the same mistake, typing 10 instead of 10. This time, we get the error message as we make the mistake. That is because this is already a numeric column, so we can't include the letter O in the data. Click OK to clear the error message and then finish entering the data correctly. Let's see what else can be done using the right-click menu. Go anywhere in the first column or variable x1 and right-click again. This time, click on Rename Column. This opens a new dialog called Rename Column. It is already partly filled for you because you right-clicked from within the first variable of this data frame. The data frame correctly shows as test and the current name box shows x1. Type row into the new name box and click OK. Now, go into the second variable, right-click again, choose Rename, and give the second variable the name MaxTemp. The data and names should now look as shown. Now, right-click on the second variable MaxTemp and this time choose the option called Sort. The Sort dialog also opens partially filled in. The data frame and the column to sort are correct. In the dialog, we can choose to sort from the smallest to the largest or the opposite. We choose to stay with the default ascending order. Click OK. Looking at the result, we notice that the whole data frame has been sorted. The row variable has been reordered to match the MaxTemp variable. That is often what is wanted. In fact, we always recommend adding a row variable to your data frame before sorting, as that makes it easy to return to the original order. You simply sort again, this time on the row variable. Let's try that. Right-click on the row variable and choose Sort. Because you are in the first column, it assumes you'd like to sort on the row variable, which you do. So, press OK. And the sorting is reversed back to the original order. We now assume that we were asked instead to get the ranks of the data column. You may not yet know what ranks are, but you will understand them once you see them. Try the right-click menu. Do you see ranks? No. There doesn't seem to be anything there. Let's look at the Prepare menu instead. Look at the first option called Data Frame. There, we see the sort we just used and rename. So, the right-click menu you have been using is just a shortcut to items, some of which you could otherwise find here. But it doesn't have rank. We are looking on a numeric column. And looking down the Prepare menu, you should see Column Numeric. Then choose Transform. In the dialog, the third button along the top says Rank. Click on the Rank tab. Now we must put the MaxTemp column from the data selector on the left into the data receiver on the right. The data receiver is in turquoise. Selecting a variable is a common task, so practice a bit. There are two ways to move a column over, and it is easy to remove it if you make a mistake too. First, select MaxTemp by clicking on it, then click on the Add button to move it over. To remove MaxTemp from the turquoise receiver, simply right-click on it and choose Remove. The second way to transfer a variable is with a double click. Put your mouse over MaxTemp and do 2 quick left clicks. This will move it to the column receiver. A second way to remove it is to click in the turquoise receiver and use the delete button on your keyboard. Now that we have some practice, choose the way you liked best and put the max temp variable into the column receiver, then press OK. This has produced a new transformed column containing the ranks. You can see that the smallest number is given the rank of 1 and the largest has the rank of 10. The only confusion is what to do when more than one value is the same. Here you see that both the second and third smallest values have the value of 2. So they have each been given the rank of 2.5. Now that we have these ranks, we decide perversely that we don't really want them. So now delete that column. Use the right-click menu again. This time, right-click and choose Delete Column. R-Instat will ask if you are sure you want to delete the column. Click Yes. Now to complete our practice, we would like to enter the data one last time to show how to use more of R-Instat's controls. Use File, New Data Frame yet again. This time, we want to enter the data but as 2 columns, each with 5 rows. Start by changing the name of the new data frame to Test2. Then change the number in the row box to 5. This is called an up-down control as there are up and down arrows which you can click on to change the value. So, click on the down arrow until you get to 5. In an up-down control, you can also choose to click in the box and type the value. So, just for fun, click in the rows box and add 3 zeros. So, the rows become 5,000. Then, click in the columns box and add 2 zeros also to the columns. So, you also have 200 columns. Then, make a big mistake by pressing OK. When there is a large data frame, the data view just shows part of the data. So, before getting rid of our mistaken data, we'll show how to move around in the data view window. First, use the scroll bar on the far right of your data frame to go to the bottom of the page. Click on the arrow at the bottom to go down a few rows at a time, or whoosh down by clicking on and dragging the gray box. You can see from the row numbers on the left that after 1000 there is no further to go. However, we know that there are 5000 rows, so now use the single and double arrows at the bottom of the data to move through the rows and columns a page at a time. Each page consists of 1000 rows and 30 columns. Click on the single arrow at the bottom of the data next to showing 1 to 1000 or 5000. This takes you to the next page which shows rows 1001 to 2000. Then click on the double arrow beside it. This takes you straight to the last page of the data, in our case, the rows 4001 to 5000. Finally, try the arrows beside showing columns 1 to 30 of 200. Again, the single arrows move through the dataset 30 columns at a time, while the double arrows jump straight to the last columns. Finally, use the double arrows to return to row 1 and column 1. At the bottom, you see that each sheet or data frame has a sort of tab here. Click on any tab to move to that sheet. And if you right-click on any tab, it will open another menu, the Data Frame right-click menu. This menu acts on whole sheets or data frames. Maybe that made you wonder if there is a row right-click. Let's try. Right-click on the row numbers on the far left-hand side. This opens the row right-click menu. Actions listed here will be applied to rows. This time, use the Data Frame right-click menu to delete this big but boring data frame. Go back to the tab at the bottom where it says Test 2 and right-click there and choose the option Delete. This opens the Delete Data Frame dialog. From here, you can delete multiple data frames at once by adding them to the Selected Data Frames window. However, we only wish to delete our test2 data frame, which is already selected, so press OK. R-Instat has a toolbar just below the menus. This also provides easy access to often used items, which are also available in the main menus. Let's try the item with a little I for information icon. Click on it. This opens a new window which has the data frame's metadata. It gives some information about each column of data in each sheet or data frame. This is called the column metadata. It has the same tabs as the data window. So, move to the metadata of the first sheet by clicking on the Data tab. You see it has two columns and both are numeric. The big curly arrow on the toolbar returns the windows to the initial setting, where half is for the data while the other half is for the output. Click on the big curly arrow to return the windows to the default layout. The most frequently used item on the toolbar looks like a mini dialog. If you click on it, it reopens the last dialog you used. Click on it. It will reopen the Delete Data Frame dialog. We don't want to delete a data frame, so use the X in the top right corner of the dialog to close it. If you click the little arrow next to the dialog picture, you see all the dialogs used so far. And clicking on any of those takes you straight back there. That's often convenient. Click on the down arrow beside the dialog icon. Look at the list of the recently used dialogs. Find New Data Frame and click on it. After all the experimenting, it is a bit of a mess for what we now want to do. So, press the Reset button at the bottom next to the OK button. This sets the dialog back to the starting point. Next, change the rows to 5. Use the down arrow to change the default for X1 from 1 to 1000 to NA. Use the down arrow to change the type for X2 from character to numeric. Then press OK. Now, enter the data yet again, but this time enter them across rather than down. To go across, use the Tab key on the left-hand side of your keyboard rather than the Enter key. Click on the first cell on the first column and type in the number. Press Tab. Enter the next number, then Tab again. As there are no columns left in this row, it will take you to the next row. Finish entering the data using the Tab key. This time, let's get a graphical summary of the data. Go to Prepare, check Data, One Variable Graph. We want to put both variables x1 and x2 into the turquoise variable to summarize receiver. Click on x1 and then press the Control key in the bottom left of your keyboard and hold it down while you click on x2. This will select both variables, turning them dark blue. Then click the Add button and both will move over at once. Then click OK. The graph will show up in the output window, but to get a better look at it, let's return to the toolbar and use the graph icon. Clicking on the icon will open a new window with a full screen version of the graph. However, clicking on the down arrow beside the graph provides options of how to view the graph. Click on the down arrow and choose Plotly. This option provides the most detail. We now have a nice box plot representation of the data. As with the summary we got before, it shows the maximum, minimum, median, and quartile values for each row. Because we opened it in Plotly, when we hover the mouse over the graph, it adds the exact value of each summary. Earlier, we saved the data to the disk. We can now easily save the additional changes we have made by using the toolbar again. Click on the disk icon. This saves the new version of the data to the place that we chose earlier. We are now finished. As we have multiple sheets of data open, we can close them all at once by using Close Data Book. Go to File, Close Data Book. If you change your mind and want to reopen this test data book again, you have three options for quickly accessing recent datasets. They are the toolbar, the recent list on the opening page, or the file menu.